nerve-wracking sometimes to get in front of folks and kind of sharing about your experience. So it's always great when folks are willing to do that. And we'll also have some words from Cogger as well. I kind of see him as like a closer. He's going to bring the word. Craig kind of this morning, he reminded me of being in the Pentecostal church. He started moving and having kind of took me back there, Craig, for a minute. This experience was so great for us. I shared in the first service. This was probably one of the most meaningful trips for me to be with the youth. And there are just a couple of reasons. I was really nervous about going back to this place because of some things that happened before. But this group was just so amazing. I think the only thing we had to worry about was who was going to go to sleep. But it was awesome to see people serving and loving one another and being open to what was going to be asked of them and not knowing what those things were. We didn't know what our sites were going to be until we actually got to the site. And so we had to be open and willing for that. So this year, so with Craig, I think this is our 5th mission trip together. So Craig started out with me. He's just, God bless his soul. He was fresh out of retirement, my first mission trip. I was hired on in April 2015, and Pastor John said, we go on a mission trip in June. I was like, so where are we going? He said, wherever you plan. So I was like, all right, well, let's make this work. And planned it, and I asked Craig if he'd be willing to join, and Miss Emma came along as well. And Craig's been with me. This is our 5th mission trip together. And also with Micah. This is Micah's 5th mission trip with me too. So it's just a really great experience. I'm going to have the youth come up and share just some highlights that they wanted to share with you. And if there's more questions afterwards, you can ask those. And also there are videos and photos on the church Facebook page as well. So who wants to go first? All right, Karina will come first.
No, I don't think I'm going to go.
Is the mic working? Can you all hear it? Looks like it's out.
Good morning. Good morning. So, sorry, I'm playing minutes. Okay. First thing I want to say is I want to thank my awesome dad for letting me go on this mission trip. He told me to say that. And so, I'll be honest, at first, I'm not really the type anymore. Like, I used to go out a lot, and I'm not really the type anymore to go out. So I was kind of hesitant on this mission trip, but I told my parents it's probably one of the best experiences that I had. To start off, they told us a theme of Tim Knocknick, which is compassion and kindness. And they asked us, do you have Tim Knocknick for your neighbor? And I was like, well, yeah, I do nice stuff all the time. And that's all I thought. And it was like, I mean, do I? You question yourself a little bit. They told us when we were learning about boarding schools and what their elders went through, they said that they don't want to make us feel bad, that they're not trying to call us out and make us feel like we're terrible people, but they're trying to make us aware of what happened. So, our first day, we went to this site, and I was looking around, and I was like, wow, there's a lot of garbage, and I was kind of thinking like, well, can't they just clean it up and take it somewhere? Or, I mean, isn't there like a garbage person? I'm like, wait, they don't have garbage people here. Like, they don't, I mean, we get our garbage picked up all the time. We don't have to worry about where to take it or what to do with it. And all over the yard, it was just garbage, and I mean, there were a lot of spiders. It was scary, but there was just, I don't want to say it was a mess, but it was a mess. And I kind of felt bad almost, but what they said, that they don't want us to feel bad, but become aware. So that's kind of what was running through my head, is become aware of what you're seeing. Open your eyes and realize the reality of what some of these people are living. And that synoptic didn't really click until probably the second work day. That's when, was it the first or the second? No, it was the first when we got the burritos. But it was kind of like, she was so appreciative of what we did. And I was just thinking, I gotta get this stuff done and gotta work my butt off and try so hard. And it was just like, why am I stressing, Kindness isn't really, Tanaknik isn't really something where you have to stress about getting something done. It's kind of knowing in your heart, you feel like you're doing something right. Something's telling you you're doing something right. You don't tell yourself you're doing something right. Something tells you. Somebody tells you. God tells you. And so on the second day, I believe, was when we drove around. We visited these sites and different sacred areas. We visited this one place, and Corey told us a story about a bear and a wolf. And I will never forget this story, because it was kind of like, oh, the wolf is such a bad person. Well, no, because then it wouldn't make these hills. And so a bear and a wolf wrestled, because the wolf wanted the bear's beautiful swan wife. So they were wrestling for days, and they were going at it, and then the wolf was like, oh, I thought he was going to get tired. So the wolf was like, okay, let's pause, and let's take a nap. So they take a nap, and then the wolf wakes up and slashes the bear and takes some of its insides and throws them over here and throws them over there. And that's how it made these hills. And I was like, oh, the wolf is terrible. And then I'm like, wait, but he made the hills. It was just so many emotions with a lot of the stories that they told. And it was kind of nice to hear what their elders told them, to teach them lessons and to open their eyes to different experiences, or keeping the tradition alive. So the last day, we had this sacred circle. It was like a healing circle. And so they had a stick, and they went around, and everybody talked as they wished. So I can't share what happened, like what was shared, but I'll tell you that at first it wasn't really, the first time it was kind of, not really that many people sharing, it was kind of like, people were holding back a little bit. But then the second time, that's when everybody opened up a lot, and that's when things really started being shared. And it was kind of crazy to hear what people were going through, or what, and hear the words coming out of my mouth, because like I was just talking and talking. I'm talking now, like I just talk, but it was like I was kind of feeling what I was saying, and I was feeling what everybody else was saying, and something was just like, it was just a wave of emotion. I don't think anybody wasn't crying. It really hit me. So, and on the way back, it was kind of just, everybody, I think, was just kind of happy and calm. Just kind of like a relief.
So it's always good to hear reflections from the youth about these experiences. So, Kamari, are you ready? You want to come?
Oh, sure. I was just agreeing.
And the mic extended here.
Okay, you can hear me, right? Alright, so, before the mission trip, I was packing like the night before, up until like 3 a.m. And I woke up at 5 so I could pack some more because I took a nap. And but I was like, okay, I know Jameson, he did not want to go on a mission trip. He was like, I don't want to do this, because he never wants to do anything. But I was he always enjoys that thing. But I was kind of feeling the same way. I was like, this is like a lot. This is like my first week of summer, and I'm spending it, volunteering. I don't want to do that. So yeah, I was just packing it, and I was ready. I liked just the first, the van ride to the reservation. It was really cool to me because we went through the mountain passes, we took the scenic route, and there was so much fog. And I was like, I just love this fog. Like, this is super awesome. But nobody else did. But I just like the scenery on the way there, and I was like, okay, maybe this trip is going to be good if it's this pretty. And so the first day there, I was like, there's only one other church, and I was confused. I was like, oh, there's going to be 3 other churches. And then I found out the only other church only had middle schoolers. I was like, wow, middle schoolers. It's great. Love that. Okay. But middle schoolers weren't that bad. They were actually pretty cool. But so we all had different groups. It was like coyotes and eagles and wolves or something. And the first night, Karina and we volunteered to clean up, I think. We didn't know what we were doing, or what we were getting ourselves into. But we cleaned up, and I was like, oh, it's okay, so this trip's gonna be clean after ourselves and clean when we at home. But it wasn't that bad. Okay, anyways, so we had Karina, Brianna, and we all had a room to ourselves. Everyone else, it was packed. It had 10 people to a room. And it was sweaty, it was stinky. We had the luxury of, free space. But unfortunately, Brianna snored, and Karina was up all night doing whatever she was doing. And the floor was hard, and I didn't like it. I was actually kind of mad. I was like, I could have brought an air mattress, but I didn't want to carry that, so whatever. I learned to sleep on the floor, but whatever. The first day, Sunday, I think, or I don't know, whenever Corey came, one thing that stuck with me was when we're doing this work, people come who aren't slam trips, they come to the reservation and they're like, oh, those poor Indians, they need our help, oh, we have to help them, and we'll do what we want to do to help them. And he's like, you shouldn't go with an agenda already set up. You go and see what they need help with, and we help them. And so it kind of made me reevaluate what I was thinking about this trip. I was thinking, oh, we're gonna do this, this, and this, and they're gonna need our help with this, this, and this, because I heard based on the previous mission trip, oh, we're gonna be doing this. And so I was just open with whatever happened, and I think that made the trip better. I think so. When we were first doing the first day, the first work trip, Craig, Josiah, and I cleaned out so many garbage bags out of this dump truck, and it was so stinky. So vinegar, diapers, and I was just oh my gosh, I don't know why I agreed to do this. But I was wait, okay, this is not, I'm not setting the agenda for this. This is what people need, and I'm helping them. And it's not oh, I'm great because I'm helping them. It's just, it's a community, we're helping each other. And so the first day was really good. I got to learn. I was great at throwing sticks. I should be a javelin person. I don't know. It was just, I don't know. It was a good, the first day was really good and helped me, enjoy the rest of the week. And the friendships that were built during the time, also really special. The other church had one high schooler, and she was also the only black girl out of the whole entire group. So I gotta help her out. She needs some black people or people of color. And we're the most diverse group. So it was cool just I don't know, hear her experiences as well. And even though the trip was about, helping the reservation. It was also about building connections with other people that came. And so I was glad I was able to do that. I don't know what to say. I think, I don't know, even going to the fort was also really special. We saw the jail. I don't know if we got a picture of that, or was it was just, you hear about it, and you don't really think like, oh, I don't know, I guess maybe you don't connect the dots, or it clicks, but when you see the jail, and it's like, people were really here for being themselves, for having their culture, for not speaking a language they didn't know. And that happened like in the 1970s. Like, it was not that long ago. And so it's just crazy to think about. But I don't know, I didn't write any notes because Brendan didn't tell me what to say. But anyways, the trip overall, it was really good, and I think it was a good experience for everybody, and I'm thankful that I went.
Yeah, there are so many more pictures that you all can see. There are some that they wouldn't allow us to take pictures of just because of the spaces, but there's so many for you to see. So I'm going to have Craig come up and share briefly with you all to kind of tie this in. So thank you to Karina and Kamari for that. It was great to have them on the trip. One thing I would say is I walked into the girls' room, check in, make sure everybody was doing okay. And I walk into the room and I see this long extension cord. And I was like, what is this extension cord doing here? Well, Karina had to have her extension cord and all these other things plugged up to it. She had a radio. Did she have a fan too?
She had 3 chargers.
Yeah, it was just like,
Because you never know when I go out and somebody might need to borrow one.
it was a lavish luxury. I was like, wow, here we are cramped up in this little space with 10 of us in one room. So they were living in luxury with silk pillows and all that kind of stuff. But it was great. So Craig, you're on.
Okay. What are the parts? Karina and Kamari, I think, have given us a very good flavor of the mission trip and have said the important things that I was going to say, but I will just kind of wrap them up anyway. And mine is maybe more the 30,000-foot view rather than the personal story. So I think things mesh together well. What I'm going to do is I have kind of 3 brief themes. One is creation, one is culture, and one is speaking truth to power with love. Those were kind of the 3 big things that I took home from it. When we all know the creation stories in the Bible, and in that case of our stories, God gives humans dominion over creation. That's in the first story. And in the second story, God places people in the garden to till it and to keep it. Kind of our relationship with the rest of creation. And I think in modern terms, we would call this a kind of an idea of sustainable use. It's something that we have not followed through on very well. As Karina was telling us, as we heard some of the creation stories of the Yakima people. And the Yakima people are a group of 14 tribes and bands. And one part of the creation story is that the way that kind of the human relationship to the rest of creation, it was not kind of granted that way by the Creator, but rather it was a covenant between humans and the other creatures. The salmon and the bear, the salmon first, but also the bear, the elk, even the roots and berries and other plants, and finally the water. They made an agreement among themselves that they would offer themselves to sustain the people, or the two-leggeds as it is in the creation story. And in turn, the people would offer to them that they would respect them and they would protect them for generations to come. And these stories and the practices that come from them are a central part of the faith and the culture of the Yakima people and many other native peoples as well. And they have sustained the people for countless centuries, with each generation of elders passing the stories and the practices on to their youth, and this continuing onward. Now, during our mission trip, we learned not only of creation stories and culture, but also of the history of the last 2 centuries. And this is the difficult truth. And this was from the perspective of the Yakima people, but also from a greater Native American perspective. History from a perspective that few of us learned in school, and that most folks have preferred to ignore. A history of invasion and conquest by white Americans, a history of broken treaties, stolen lands, and efforts to destroy the native languages, cultures, families, sustenance, and the connection between the Creator and creation. And this was done under the authority of the United States government with the willing assistance of Christian churches. Today we are appalled when we hear about the family separations and cruel treatment of our fellow human beings going on at the border. But these are not new things. The church actively separated Native families for many decades. We Christians had so confused the gospel with Western culture that what we thought we were doing was good for the native children, sending them off to boarding schools, separating them from their parents, from their culture, from their language. But this was harmful, and that harm is lasting. Harm that is evidenced today through suicides, through poverty, through violence against Native women. And folks shared some intimate stories of things, their personal connections with suicide among friends, or with violence to women. But despite these efforts to eradicate their culture, the tradition of elders teaching youth how to respect and practice their culture goes on. And there were some very, very difficult times during those boarding school days to be able to do that. But this goes on today. The root gathering, huckleberry picking, salmon fishing, hunting, and each of these parts of the culture must be carefully learned and practiced under the watchful eyes of elders. And the young people who we met in the Mending Wings Youth Council, they embrace this continuation of their culture, serving and learning from their elders. But it also places a burden on them because they're living in 2 worlds. One is the world of the West, I will call it, and the other is the world of their culture. And when the time comes, and it's not on the calendar, it's just when the season is ready, when the time comes to harvest roots, and you have a math test in your high school the same day, what is your priority? Is it to your elders and to your culture? Or is it to your education and the expectation of your teachers? And so this living in 2 worlds, folks are living in this tension. So what I've painted is a rather dark picture. But one of the amazing things about this mission trip is that our hosts, the Mending Wings leaders and elders, and also the young people in the Youth Council, were able to share this with us by speaking truth to power with love, like Jesus would do it. And this abundant love was able to open our hearts and our minds to receive their message. And and we could just feel this love, and we could receive it. One of the fundamentals of Yakima living is Timnachnik, and you've heard about Timnachnik already. And I would describe it as wise compassion. And our hosts modeled Timnachnik through their compassion in teaching us and in inviting us to share not only their sorrows but their joys. For folks who were at the Adult Education Hour, you saw the wonderful video that Brendan created. But they hosted a powwow for us with native dances, fresh salmon and fry bread. We also played games. We danced, and if you weren't there at the Adult Education Hour, ask Micah and Jaden about the potato dance. And we had a wonderful volleyball game while Motown played in the background. And although I am certainly not a youth, for about 15 minutes during that volleyball game, before I got stiff with the music of my youth playing volleyball with all these folks, I felt like I was about 19 again. It was just this transcendental experience. So what can we do to return that love that was given to us? A few thoughts. We can learn more about and respect the native cultures. When we, each Sunday morning here, where we recognize that the land that we are on belonged for centuries to the Puyallup people of the Coast Salish tribes, let's let that sink in during that silence that we have after that. And to learn more about these cultures. We can educate others, and we can speak out when native treaties, rights, and people are threatened, and we know that's still going on today. Think about Standing Rock. And we can support the ministry of Mending Wings. And you can check with Brendan, because he has connections there about how we can do that. And to close, I just want to express my gratitude, one, to our hosts at Mending Wings, and you've heard a lot about that already, to our youth at Peace. And as you heard the messages, they stepped out of their comfort zone. They slept on the floor. They worked hard doing some pretty dirty stuff without complaining. I didn't hear a single complaint. And they opened their minds and hearts to receive the gifts they were given. And then finally, I want to thank, and this is maybe a last but not least for sure, Brendan, our youth leader, who worked so hard not only to organize these mission trips and to lead these mission trips, but throughout the year as a mentor for young people and for our community. Please thank him and ask him how you can support him in his ministry to us. Thanks.
I have one way in which you can all support. Donate air mattresses to us. My back is still kind of like... But thank you, Craig, to the youth who shared. This is always a great experience.
Oh, yeah, what is something we're happy to...
Okay, well, come. Now they aren't shy anymore.
So there's always something from the trip that the kids do. And it's not related to anything, but Craig is super cool and no one can replicate him. So in honor of Craig, 1, 2, 3.
Try Greg!
It's amazing what they pick up on. I think one year we were dabbing and some other stuff, but you guys see Craig, you just never know. But thank you all. We look forward to next year's trip. Prayers for us as we continue to move forward this year, and prayers for the folks at Mending Wings. So thank you.